Good morning and welcome to Thought for the Day for Thursday, the 28th of April. My name's Kathy and I live in the parish of Binsted. Today I've chosen Psalm 15 to look at, and I'm going to be reading it from the NIV to start with. Psalm 15, Who shall abide in God's sanctuary? This is attributed to David. O Lord, who may abide in your tent? Who may dwell on your holy hill? Those who walk blamelessly and do what is right, and speak the truth from their heart, who do not slander with their tongue, and do no evil to their friends, nor take up a reproach against their neighbours, in whose eyes the wicked are despised, but who honour those who fear the Lord, who stand by their oath even when they are hurt, who do not lend money at interest and do not take a bribe against the innocent. Those who do these things shall never be moved. When I was reading the commentaries about this psalm, I looked at John Golding's from the series Psalms for Everyone, and I thought he put it so succinctly that rather than trying to rewrite it, I would read to you what he'd said. So in John Golding's commentary, he said he had been in email correspondence with an online student of his in Kabul concerning the meaning of holiness, the context in which she raises an odd problem. The Western Christians with whom she works are people of truthfulness, faithfulness, mercy, and peaceableness. Yet when they articulate their faith to Afghanis, they stress God's declaring us to be righteous, even though we are sinners, so much that they don't set up an expectation that God's forgiving grace will transform us. They make it sound as if living a moral life is optional, which is very confusing to a Muslim. Our lives and our words are out of sync, she says. In other parts of the world too, our Christian instinct is to keep religion and morality in separate compartments. There can be strife and backbiting between members of a congregation, but they feel no unease about continuing in worship, possibly separately. The people involved in high-profile corruption and fraud cases and acts of slaughter often turn out to be respected members of a Christian church. The book of Psalms began with a reminder that people couldn't separate their praise and prayer from the question of whether their lives were lived in accordance with the Torah. Its stress didn't rest on our feelings about our relationship with God. Repeating the teaching of the Torah and living by it had to accompany worship. Now that we've read a few Psalms since that's the expectation expressed in Psalm 1, the Psalter reminds us of the point again in case we have come to think that honouring God in praise or prayer is possible without honouring God in one's relationships with other people and one's life in society. While we talk of Yahweh's tent or Yahweh's mountain, the Lord's tent, the Lord's mountain, might make us think of a concrete place such as Mount Sinai or Mount Zion. The talk of staying and dwelling suggests that the psalm has something broader in mind. Staying is the word for spending the night somewhere. Dwelling, likewise, suggests staying somewhere for a while. While people might sometime have camped on Mount Zion overnight, we have no indication that this was regular practice. But the Psalms also speak of God's dwelling in the broader sense, a less focused reality, a presence of God that was a reality throughout the land of Israel. Being in someone's tent or staying with someone implies abiding in a place of security and provision. So what kind of person must you be to enjoy that security of living in God's tent? The answer comes in a sequence of unusual three-part lines. Parallelism won't work with three-part lines. They keep surprising us with their third part and thus making us think some more. Firstly, enjoying security with God means being characterized by integrity. Literally, you are someone who walks whole. There is a moral consistency, constancy, and stability about you. It expresses itself in faithfulness in your actions. It also implies a uniformity between what you are on the outside and what you are on the inside. You speak the truth in your heart. Your actions and your thinking match. You don't do one thing and then think another. Second, you don't go around talking about other people. The point spelled out by the rest of the line. You don't use your tongue to wrong a fellow member of the village, for instance, by lying about someone in order to rob the family of its land or cattle. And you don't use your tongue to accuse your neighbor of things. Third, it means being discerning in the way you relate to other people in light of their own moral stance. If someone else has earned the community's contempt for such an action, you don't turn a blind eye, and you certainly don't honor such people. The people you honor are those who revere Yahweh in word and deed. And when you commit yourself to ensuring that wrongdoers pay for their wrongdoing, you don't go soft and let them off, and thereby encourage people to assume they can get away with such wrongdoing. Fourth, you watch what you do with your own possessions. On one hand, you're generous in lending without interest to people who, for instance, have had a bad harvest or have no food or seed to sow, food to eat for the coming year. On the other hand, when you're involved in some community dispute, you don't use your wealth to get a favorable decision from elders by bribing a witness. And you don't just maintain that stance for the short haul. The last bit of definition belongs to the last of the 4 3-part lines, but it wouldn't be surprising if the psalm assumes that that applies to all the psalm's constraints. The challenge for me today is how am I dwelling in the Lord? Am I seeking to dwell in Him? And am I seeking to live up to those challenges of honoring God both in my heart and in my actions in all I do, and my interactions and relationships with those around us? Lots to think about today. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.